It's great to be here with Her Worship Anita Baker, the Mayor, and it's a great opportunity to be out here today to unveil one of the first signposts for a static speed camera in New Zealand. The signpost behind me is just the second one to be rolled out throughout New Zealand, with the first one going up in the far north recently. In 2019, the previous government promised speed camera signs we phased in across the country, but like so much else, they failed to deliver. Too many people have considered speed cameras to be more about revenue raising than actually getting Kiwis to drive to the speed limits. Speed cameras should be about improving safety, not raising revenue, and that's why they should be signposted so people have a fair warning to slow down and avoid a ticket. It's the right thing to do. Our government is focused on improving road safety. We will do that by deterring those breaking the law and targeting the highest contributing factors to fatal road crashes, including alcohol and drugs. NZTA is rolling out these new speed camera signs. That rollout is expected to be completed by June 2025. And with that, happy to take questions.
How many of these signs are we going to have out throughout the country?
I believe there's about 106 static camera sites, and I think there's another 50 camera sites being installed, which will increase the number to about 150, and each one of them will be signposted, whether that's a fixed camera like this, or whether it's also the point-to-point cameras, which are also being installed in some parts of the country as well. They will all be signposted to give motorists fair warning that speed cameras are up ahead.
Yeah, I mean, will this impact government revenue in terms of, motorists now have a head up, they're not going to get caught?
Well, ultimately, speed cameras aren't about revenue. They are about safety, and they're about ensuring that motorists have fair warning. And if they break the law, then they get a fine. And so ultimately, a lot of Kiwis complain about the fact that cameras are in place and they didn't get a fair warning. Well, now they will, and they'll pay the fine.
Okay, and so if speed cameras are not about revenue gathering, will there also be signs alerting motorists that they come out to a mobile speed camera, one of the police vans?
No, so there won't be. That's not the intent to roll it out for mobile cameras, and so motorists do need to still be aware that there will still be mobile cameras in place, and that they still could get caught. Ultimately, we want New Zealanders to keep to the speed limit. But this is about fixed cameras, which are across the country. There are more that are being installed. And for those cameras, about having fair warning in place.
Why does that same logic not apply for fixed as for mobile?
Well, ultimately, New Zealanders need to obey the law and follow the law. And ultimately, that's why we have the ability for police, and it will soon transfer to NZTA, to operate mobile cameras in different places. And the reality is, this is about encouraging New Zealanders to follow the law, and when it comes to fixed cameras, there'll be fair warning in place.
Yeah, have you had any advice around what it's like to do the money to be stored?
No, and ultimately this isn't about the money. This is about making sure that New Zealanders have fair warning to follow the law. That's what these cameras are about. Well, ultimately, this is what's done in many countries around the world. There's camera warning signs in place to warn motorists. Ultimately, we want to see compliance. We want to see people following the speed limit, and that's what these signs are saying. Well, there's a speed camera coming up, and we want you to be aware. If you're not, you'll pay a fine.
What does the transfer from
Well, ultimately, NZTA is taking responsibility for the enforcement program, so they will take ownership of the cameras. They're also going to take ownership of the mobile cameras as well, and roll those out in terms of that part of the process. It's all about NZTA. They already own the roading corridor. They've now got a new back office system to operate it. They've got new technology coming in place. It's a big refresh of technology happening at the same time. And it's about them taking an enforcement approach which ensures that those who do break the law pay the fine, and if you don't, we'll keep to the speed limit. And I encourage all New Zealanders to keep the speed limit.
Why did the previous government never get around to doing this? Because this was announced, what, 2019?
Well, it was announced I guess you'll have to ask them. I mean, ultimately there's a lot of things they promised but never actually got around to delivering. This is about, fair warning for motorists. I think everyone acknowledges. I said the AA were out this morning saying this makes sense. It's what happens in most countries around the world. It should have happened a lot sooner.
Yeah, was it the pandemic or something that got in the way of them doing it?
Well, I think there's a lot of things they promised in transport, whether that's let's get Wellington moving or it's Auckland light fail. There was also speed camera signs they didn't manage to deliver. So we're getting that delivered. They're going to be rolled out in the next 12 months.
Why is this government prioritising the signs?
Well, there's a lot we're fixing in transport. We're fixing potholes. We're putting speed camera signs up. We're starting to get some roads built again. There's a lot that we've got underway in the transport space. But key thing is New Zealanders want to see delivery, and that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, you're pretty critical of a lot of the speed limits around New Zealand. You think they should be higher. I mean, why have speed cameras in the first place? Should people just be able to...
Well, ultimately, no. I think there's two things. There needs to be. We've been very clear that the speed limit should be set at a sensible rate. That's why we've said we want to make sure that you're driving past a school during pick-up and drop-off time. There will be a slower speed limit, but it doesn't make sense for a shift worker going to work in the morning to have to crawl around at 30 kilometres per hour at 4 a.m. in the morning. So we need to have a balanced approach to this. But if you break the law, there are consequences. And we've always been clear about that, and that's what speed cameras are about, ensuring the safety of others on the roads and ensuring that people comply with the law at the same time.
Does it make sense for a shift worker to have to crawl at 50k an hour?
Well, ultimately, those decisions get made around what the speed limit should be on particular roads, but what we're seeing across the country is blanket 30 kilometre per hour speed limits being put in place in whole swathes of suburbs by the previous government, and it doesn't make sense to do that, particularly when the actual risk is around schools during pick-up and drop-off times, and so that's why we're going to have a balanced approach. We will have a slower speed limit during pick-up and drop-off times, but we're not going to just have a blanket speed limit reduction 24/7. That doesn't make sense.
You mentioned in your opening comments about alcohol and drug testing. Where's the drug testing at the moment?
Legislation will be coming to the House in coming weeks or a couple of months, I think it is. It's currently being drafted. It'll be in the House very soon.
Have the police selected a device that they're going to use?
So they have to go through, the legislation has to go through. There's a procurement process, but they're obviously already working through that at the moment, but they haven't selected the device yet.
So you need to pass the legislation before they can lock that in?
Before they then have to go through a procurement process. Unfortunately, because the last government's legislation required the tests to be of an evidentiary standing rather than a screening standard like the rest of the world, there were no tests available, and so by amending the legislation, there's a whole range of tests which will be able to be used, and they'll be able to access those. And so we want, obviously, once that legislation is passed, we want to be able to then implement that as quickly as we can.
Are you going to have enough police officers to carry out the testing, because it's kind of screwed them over on pay?
No, I think what we saw yesterday was that pay deal was sorted. Obviously, it's gone through the final offer arbitration, but it's pleasing to see that that deal has now been done. We've got a coalition commitment to increase the number of police by 500 over the next 2 years. We're putting more police on the beat, and we're just working through the road safety partnership with police at the moment to continue to increase safety outcomes on our roads through the great work they do on our roads.
Why is the number of police falling?
Well, we're very focused. We've got a coalition commitment to increase the number of police by 500 over the next 2 years. There's a huge amount of work that my colleague, Honourable Mark Mitchell, is doing in that regard, and we're committed to meeting that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the offer over in Aussie is pretty good for them, though, eh?
We're committed to meeting our coalition commitments.
But how are you going to do that if you're not meeting their pay expectations?
Well, there's a huge. Ultimately, we've now finalised that. It went through a final offer arbitration. That process is now completed. And we've got a huge recruitment process underway that Honourable Mark Mitchell is leading. It's really important for us to make sure we're recruiting more police. That final offer arbitration, having that solved is a good thing. And now we're really focused on meeting that coalition commitment.
Do you think they are being paid fair, police officers?
Well, ultimately, I think everyone would say we want to pay police more, but ultimately we have to go through a process. That process has now been completed. Went through a final offer arbitration. And the reality is now we've got a coalition commitment that we have to work very hard to meet.
Yeah, you're expecting a lot from them, like confronting gang members, taking their patches off them. I mean, that'll be a big issue in Porirua, won't it? I mean, don't they deserve a bit more money?
Well, ultimately, it's been through a process. Final offer arbitration is independent of politicians. We don't have, as I say, we put forward an offer. It's been accepted. Now we're very focused on meeting our coalition commitment.
Is the police resourcing and capacity part of the reason why the speed camera enforcement is
No, it was a decision made under the last government to transfer the operations over to NZTA. Ultimately, they're the ones who own the roading corridor. They're now doing the infrastructure and the technology upgrade. The technology was getting old and needed to have an upgrade, so it made sense to do that. It's about ensuring that NZTA can now play a role there in terms of increasing road safety. I think New Zealanders have expectation around improved road safety through safety enforcement with speed cameras. Oh, I think you'd probably say it's about 100 or 200 metres. Is that about right? 100 or 200 metres. That's my iometer this morning.
And how long will the rollout be?
It'll be completed over the next 12 months. In terms of the transfer,
No, the actual sign.
oh, I mean, signs like this, I don't know the exact cost of that, but we can find the exact cost for you. But signs aren't expensive. The transfer, well, I think the transfer would be, what's the total cost of the transfer? About $100 million, but more than $100 million. But that includes a major tech upgrade. That includes new cameras. It includes the signage, obviously. It also includes some infrastructure upgrades around those cameras as well. Great. Thank you very much. Cheers.